The morning sun barely lifts over Brookvale High as rainwater drips from the gym roof. The janitor, Walter Briggs, moves quietly through the corridors, mop in hand, each stroke deliberate, practiced. A rhythm learned long ago in another kind of war. The students rush past him, laughter and sneakers echoing down polished floors. But he is invisible. His eyes, gray and patient, scan the walls as if reading stories no one else can see. He pauses beneath a row of photographs, trophies of smiling faces from years gone by, and adjusts one slightly off-center frame. To them, he is just the janitor. To him, this quiet is survival. He doesn't speak because he doesn't need to. The world around him hums, and within that silence, Walter keeps watch. Laughter echoes through the hall as students cluster near their lockers. Walter moves quietly beside them, carrying a small toolbox, tightening a loose hinge on a classroom door. Behind him, two boys whisper, their words laced with mockery. Guess he fought in the janitor wars. One snickers. Walter hears but doesn't react. His focus remains on the hinge. Chloe Reynolds, 16, bright-eyed and genuine, passes by and smiles. Morning, Mr. Briggs. Walter looks up, meeting her eyes for a moment, then nods once, a faint warmth flickering through his expression before he returns to work. The laughter fades as Chloe walks away, leaving behind a silence that feels almost like respect. Principal Karen Alvarez walks briskly through the corridor, clipboard in hand, her heels clicking in steady rhythm. She stops beside Walter, who is sweeping near the stairwell. Morning, Walter, she says. Everything running smooth? He nods, offering a quiet thumbs up. She studies him for a second, sensing his quiet loyalty, then moves on. Phone ringing in her hand. Walter watches her disappear into her office, then glances up at the American flag swaying in the hallway draft. His eyes hold a reverence that words could never match. After the last bell, the hallways fall silent. Walter moves alone, his mop gliding across the floor like an old dance partner. He pauses by the memorial plaque outside the gym. Names of students lost over the decades. His reflection merges with the bronze letters. A single name catches his eye, Sergeant Daniel Hurst. A flicker of memory crosses his face. Dust, gunfire, and a voice shouting his name in another lifetime. Walter touches the plaque lightly, head bowed, then exhales a breath that seems to carry 40 years of ghosts. Night deepens over Brookvale High. The lights are dim, the classroom's dark. Walter mops the final corridor, his reflection sliding across the wet floor like a shadow following its master. From outside, rain taps against the glass, steady and unending. He pauses at the end of the hall, listening to the hum of the lights, to the echo of laughter long gone, to his own heartbeat steady in his chest. For a moment he closes his eyes. The school sleeps, but he remains its silent guardian. When the lights finally flicker off, Walter exhales, shoulders heavy but spirit unbroken. In the cafeteria, laughter rolls across the room like a tide, but Eli Turner sits alone at the far corner, his tray untouched. His eyes, pale and distant, drift over the crowd without landing on anyone. Around him, the noise of teenage life blurs into a low hum. Walter Briggs, mopping near the vending machines, watches the boy briefly, sensing something familiar in his stillness. The same quiet that once haunted him after the war. Eli's fingers tap nervously on the table, a rhythm of unease. The janitor's gaze softens, then moves on. Two silent souls, each unseen, passing like shadows through a world too loud to notice either. Walter passes through the hallway after lunch, pushing his mop bucket slowly. Ahead, Eli stands by the lockers, head down, books pressed tight against his chest. Walter stops a few feet away, sensing the boy's unease. For a moment, their eyes meet, Two men of different generations, both carrying invisible weight. Walter nods slightly, a silent gesture of understanding. Eli looks away, unsure how to respond, and disappears into the crowd. Walter watches him go, the faint memory of his younger self flickering in that fleeting glance. The roar of desert wind fills Walter's mind. He is no longer in the school, but back in the dust of another world. A flashback. The air burns with sunlight. A younger Walter, 27 years old, crouches beside his fellow Marines behind a crumbling wall. Sergeant Daniel Hurst shouts orders through static and sand. Mortar shells thunder nearby, but Walter's breathing remains steady. In the chaos, his eyes are sharp, scanning for movement. A quiet courage radiates from him, the same calm he still carries, now disguised beneath a janitor's uniform. Back in the present, Principal Alvarez sits in her office, the rain tapping against the window like a warning she can't yet name. Her inbox dings, an anonymous message. The words are chillingly vague. Tomorrow will be different. She exhales slowly, uncertainty hardening into unease. Reaching for her phone, she calls the school resource officer, voice tight with concern. Outside her office, Walter passes by, pushing his cart, unaware of the storm that's already begun to form. The final bell rings. The halls empty into the steady rhythm of rainfall. Through the windows, the world outside glistens in silver gray, a calm that feels like held breath. Walter stands near the entrance, watching students run to their cars under umbrellas. Thunder murmurs in the distance. Eli lingers by the doorway, his face hidden beneath his hood. For a heartbeat, Walter almost speaks, but no words come. Eli disappears into the rain. Walter watches him go, uneasy but silent, unaware that his next act of silence will soon save them all. The morning comes heavy and gray. In a small, cluttered bedroom, Eli Turner sits on the edge of his bed. His hands tremble as he stares at the pistol resting in front of him, its dull metal reflecting the faint light through the blinds. Around him, posters hang crookedly, and old homework litters the floor. A photograph of his mother, smiling, taken years ago, sits on the nightstand. He whispers an apology to no one in particular. The rain hasn't stopped. Outside, the world goes on, unaware that within these four walls, something fragile is breaking. At Brookvale High, Walter Briggs polishes the hallway floor with his usual precision, but something in the air feels wrong. The rain outside has deepened into a steady downpour, drumming against the glass. Walter pauses, mop in hand, his gaze drifting toward the front doors as if drawn by instinct. The stillness of the moment unsettles him. He's felt this before, in deserts far from here, just before the sound of chaos. The hum of the lights seems louder, sharper. He continues to mop, but his breathing has changed, slower, deeper, bracing for something unseen. In the locker room, Chloe Reynolds changes out of her gym uniform, humming softly to herself. The door creaks. Eli steps inside, soaked from the rain, his hoodie clinging to his frame. Chloe freezes. His eyes, red-rimmed and distant, meet hers. "Eli," she whispers. He doesn't answer. A tear slides down his cheek as he turns away, shoving past her. The silence he leaves behind feels like a wound. Chloe watches him go, fear rising in her throat. She knows something is terribly wrong, though she can't yet name it. The sound of rain becomes the rhythm of memory. Walter blinks, and he's back in the desert. Dust and fear thicken the air. A young Marine freezes under fire, panic overtaking him. Walter, 27th, places a steady hand on the soldier's shoulder, meeting his eyes. No words, only calm. The young man steadies his aim, regains his breath. The gunfire fades. In the present, Walter exhales slowly, gripping the handle of his mop cart as if it were his rifle once more. The same silence that saved a life long ago returns to guide him again. The peace shatters with a scream. Down the east corridor, chaos bursts into being. Running footsteps, panicked voices. Walter looks up sharply, instincts firing awake. The bucket tips over. As he releases the mop, water spreading like spilled glass across the tiles. From somewhere distant, the sharp crack of a gunshot slices through the air. The students' laughter, the rain, the hum of lights. All vanish into silence. Walter's eyes narrow. He straightens his back. The janitor is gone. The Marine has returned. Screams ricochet through the corridors like breaking glass. Students run in every direction, papers, backpacks, and fear scattering across the floor. The alarm blares, an endless shriek of panic. Walter Briggs steps into the main hallway, the red strobe lights flashing against his face. His eyes move with precision, scanning for danger. He's been here before, though in another life, his hands steady. His breathing evens. While the world unravels around him, Walter moves with a soldier's calm. He doesn't run. He observes, plans, and begins to walk toward the sound of the gunfire. The roar of panic fades behind him as Walter walks against the current of terrified students. Each footstep echoes, deliberate, controlled. He moves past classrooms where teachers pull students to the ground, locking doors. The fire alarm screams overhead, but his focus remains unbroken. He remembers moving through smoke-filled streets in another war, steadying his breath, scanning corners. A lifetime of training whispers through his movements now, not in violence, but in discipline. Walter's silence becomes the still point in the spinning whirl. Inside the main office, Principal Karen Alvarez speaks into the intercom, her voice trembling as she calls for lockdown. All doors locked. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. She grips the microphone tightly, knuckles white. A distant gunshot interrupts her words. She flinches but continues, forcing calm into her tone. Outside her window, Walter's figure crosses the courtyard, steady as a shadow moving toward danger. Karen's eyes wide. For the first time, she truly sees the man she's passed by every day. The quiet watcher stepping into chaos. Walter turns the corner into the east corridor. The sound of crying echoes through the air. Near the lockers, a figure stands shaking. Eli Turner, gun in hand, tears streaming down his face. Walter freezes a few yards away. No words. No movement. Just two lives connected by silence. Eli's hands tremble. The weapon wavers. The boy's lips quiver as if trying to speak, but only sobs come. Walter's eyes soften, steady, understanding. The hallway becomes still. A fragile thread between tragedy and mercy, hanging by a breath. The alarm blares. The rain outside pounds against the glass. In the frozen corridor, time seems to stop. Walter's breath steadies, his eyes never leaving Eli's. The old soldier inside him resurfaces fully now, not as a weapon, but as a guardian. His silence speaks louder than fear. Eli's shoulders shake. The gun lowers an inch. Then, without warning, a single student's cry from a nearby classroom shatters the stillness. Eli jerks, the gun rising again. Walter steps forward, one step closer to the breaking point. The corridor has become a cathedral of silence. The alarms fade into background static, rain whispering against the windows. Walter Briggs stands perfectly still, his breath measured, his gaze locked on the boy before him. Eli Turner trembles, the gun shaking in his small, pale hands. Walter takes a slow step forward, not as a warrior, but as a man who's seen too much of what fear can do. He says nothing. His calm becomes a language stronger than words. For the first time, Eli's hands falter, confusion breaking through the storm in his mind. Walter's mind drifts, not away but inward. He hears the echo of another voice, Sergeant Daniel Hurst's, barking commands through sand and gunfire. "Control your breath, Briggs." One heartbeat at a time. The memory steadies him. His shoulders drop, his eyes soften. In front of him, Eli's tears fall freely now. The weapon trembles in the air, the weight of it almost too much for him. Walter inhales deeply and lets it out. The breath of a man choosing peace over fear. One final time. Step by step, Walter closes the distance. The sound of his boots echoes like slow thunder. Eli's arm shakes violently now, his breath ragged. "Stay back," he cries, voice cracking under the weight of fear and regret. But Walter doesn't stop. His silence is unnerving. Not defiance, but understanding. His eyes tell the story of a man who's seen too many young faces broken by pain. Eli's voice fades into sobs. The world narrows to the soft squeak of Walter's boots and the trembling barrel between them. In one motion, quick, fluid, absolute, Walter moves. A veteran's instinct, a father's mercy. His hand closes around the weapon before Eli can react. The gun twists away, sliding across the floor. Eli collapses to his knees, sobbing. Walter stands over him, breathing slow, his hand still outstretched, trembling slightly from the surge of memory and adrenaline. No words, no triumph. Only stillness. The hallway, once an arena of fear, becomes a sanctuary of quiet. Walter looks down at the boy, and forgiveness lives in his eyes. For a long moment, no one moves. The rain continues outside, soft and constant. Then a distant wail of sirens breaks through the stillness. Walter steps back, letting the boy breathe. Around the corner, frightened students peek out, their faces wet with tears. One whispers, "He stopped him." Walter doesn't look at them. He kneels beside Eli, hand resting gently on the boy's shoulder. The storm outside has not stopped, but inside these walls, the battle has ended. Not through words, not through violence, but through the quiet strength of one forgotten man. The school is flooded with flashing lights and rushing footsteps. Police move through the halls, voices crackling through radios. But amid the noise stands Walter Briggs, still, silent, soaked in red and blue light. Officer Jenkins kneels beside Eli Turner, speaking gently as other officers secure the weapon. Walter leans against the lockers, hands steady at his sides, his breathing calm, though his eyes carry the weight of what just passed. Jenkins glances at him, a question in his gaze, a quiet nod in return. Neither man speaks. The chaos belongs to the world. The silence belongs to Walter. The students are gathered in the gymnasium, trembling but safe. Chloe Reynolds stands near the bleachers, eyes red from crying. When she sees Walter enter, escorted gently by an officer, she runs forward and throws her arms around him. "You saved us," she whispers, voice breaking. Walter hesitates, unsure what to do with the gesture, then slowly returns the embrace. Awkward, tender, real. Around them, the noise of relief fills the space. Walter's eyes close for a brief second, as if absorbing the unfamiliar warmth of gratitude. Principal Karen Alvarez stands beside Walter in the nurse's office, her expression caught between admiration and disbelief. "You couldn't have been killed," she says softly. Walter meets her eyes, silent as ever. "You're a Marine, aren't you?" she adds, the realization dawning. He gives a faint nod. She looks away, wiping at the corner of her eye. "Thank you, Walter." He simply adjusts his sleeve and looks toward the window where the rain still falls, the weight of years pressing gently on his shoulders. As the night deepens, Walter sits alone in the teacher's lounge, the storm outside easing to a drizzle. He gazes at a coffee cup in his hands, steam curling like a memory. His mind drifts backward to a desert sunrise, soldiers lined up in silence, medals glinting faintly on dusty uniforms. Sergeant Hurst pins one on Walter's chest. "You don't need words, Briggs," the sergeant says, voice echoing from decades past. "Your actions speak louder than any speech ever could." Walter's lips twitch into the smallest of smiles. The rain resumes, soft, forgiving. Outside, the school stands quiet under the rain. Walter steps through the front doors, the hum of police radios fading behind him. His figure, framed by the glow of emergency lights, looks both tired and timeless. He pauses at the top of the steps, rain falling gently across his silver hair. The mop handle he carries now feels lighter somehow. Without looking back, he walks into the night, disappearing down the slick sidewalk, a silent guardian retreating to the shadows where he belongs. The storm has passed, but its echo will never leave the hearts he's saved. News cameras flash across living rooms and smartphones, replaying the story over and over. Janitor saves school during shooting. The headlines read, "Parents clutch their children. Students whisper to one another." Yet amidst the attention, Walter Briggs remains absent, his heroism recognized, his presence invisible. He doesn't seek applause. The world sees the act. He feels only the weight of what it cost him to stay silent, to act alone. In the quiet corners of the city, he walks, unnoticed, a man who chose duty over recognition. In the school auditorium, Principal Karen Alvarez addresses the students. Her voice is firm yet carries the weight of awe and respect. "Heroes do not always wear capes," she says. "Sometimes they are the quiet ones who see what needs to be done and do it without asking for recognition." Students glance around the room, imagining Walter Briggs in the corridors, the janitor they mocked and ignored, now a figure of courage they cannot forget. The applause is soft, thoughtful, not for the spectacle, but for the principle he embodies. In the hallway, Chloe Reynolds kneels beside Walter's janitor cart, placing a small bouquet of flowers atop it. She whispers, "For all you did. For all of us." She steps back, giving him space. And for a fleeting moment, Walter allows a hint of a smile. The world may never fully understand him, but gestures like this carry weight beyond words. He nods once and returns to his work, mop in hand, the hero of the day walking quietly among the ordinary. At home, Walter sits at his kitchen table, medals from long ago laid out carefully before him. He polishes each one slowly, methodically, as he has polished floors for decades. The rain outside patters lightly on the roof, mirroring the rhythm of his careful movements. He thinks of faces he saved, lives he preserved, and the silent strength that has always carried him. No one else needs to know. This quiet courage is not for recognition, it is for the lives it protects, for the principle it upholds. The school stands empty now, hallways echoing only the soft hum of lights. Walter walks through, mop in hand, observing the space as he has for decades. He pauses at a classroom door, straightens a picture, and moves on. The world outside will remember the story, but inside, life returns to its quiet rhythm. Walter Briggs, janitor, veteran, silent guardian, fades into the ordinary once more. Courage doesn't always demand an audience. Sometimes it is enough that it quietly endures.